Hello and welcome back to the Project Management PrepCast, everyone. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner, and this lesson is recorded with a live audience on Facebook and YouTube. And today, as you can clearly see, we are going to do a PMP exam lessons learned round. Hello, everybody. So yes, PMP exam lessons learned is the topic of the day. Let's take a look at the agenda together here. And a surprise, we're going to start with lessons learned. Then we have a live guest who wrote to me 3 days ago and said, hey, I just passed the exam, one of your students. Why don't I come on Monday? So we have rearranged everything, and you can welcome Dana Domnisor, PMP, in about 10 minutes or so. Then we're going to go back into a few more lessons learned, and we are going to have some take action at the end for you to know. As always, Kasim is the first to say hello. Hello to you as well, Kasim. But before we jump into part one, please don't forget we offer a complete online suite of PMP exam preparation tools. On the left, you see the PrepCast training course. That is our on-demand self-study PMP training course at pmprepcast.com. And on the left, the PMP exam simulator, the PrepCast simulator at pmexamsimulator.com. The first lessons learned that I have for you is this one here. It's easy. No, it's hard. Okay, so this is kind of a contradictory lessons learned, and that is intentional. So this is what I have found in the last 5 days on the internet. Okay, this is also why it has a question mark afterwards. Lessons learned? Really? The test was more difficult than I expected, and somebody else says the test was easier than anticipated. In my opinion, the bottom line here is this: don't believe one or the other. You won't know until you have taken the exam whether, in hindsight, it's going to be appearing easier for you. Obviously, if you prepare well and you're really a go-getter and a studier, it's going to appear less hard to you. But if you just kind of, play it by ear and you don't study all that well, you're probably going to say, oh my God, this was a really, really hard exam, right? So instead of worrying about whether your exam is going to be easier or hard, why don't you look at this as an opportunity to study up on the latest project management theories, principles, processes, techniques, and become a better project manager in the process, right? Preparing for the PMP should be more than just adding these 3 letters behind your name. It's a point in your career where you can decide, I am going to step up my career. That's about it. Hello also to Kevin, and hello also to Suleiman here, who have joined us on Facebook and YouTube today. The next one is question vagueness. This is a big one because we get this almost every week. The questions on the exam are vague, really, really vague. And you have to be prepared. You can't be prepared for this, but in your mind, you have to prepare yourself for these questions are going to be really vague. I'm going to be confused by them. Okay. If you go into the exam with that attitude, you are good to go. All right. So here's a longer one, right? This person was genuinely shocked at the difficulty and vagueness of the questions. This person has used Rita Mulcahy's exam simulator and says, well, on Rita's simulator, I was fine, right? But on the exam, 90% of the questions on the exam I felt uncomfortable with. Okay. Next one is very similar, situational, pick the best option, and not maybe like real life, right? I honestly was not sure of a lot of my answers as the situations were unique, and I had to use my best judgment. Okay, Again, the vagueness here. And then this one here, in general, the question was shorter than in the PrepCast simulator, more vague. We have more references to specific process names. The exam was more vague. Welcome to the wonderful world of managing an exam simulator and developing questions for this. I can tell you this. If we in our simulator, if Rita, if anybody in their simulators had questions that were as vague as on the real PMP exam, you would be writing to us and say, your questions stink. How am I supposed to answer these? They are so vague. You're not giving me enough information. I really don't know why you're putting questions this bad out there. Then you take the exam and you come back to us and you'll go, I'm really sorry. You were right. The vagueness of the questions in your simulator was correct. But we don't want that to happen. So what we and everybody else does is we give you more in our exam simulators. So in our exam simulators, you get a little bit more information, a little less vagueness, but on the exam, it's going to be there. You're going to be surprised at the vagueness in the exam. All right. And then question types. This is important for you to know because PMI has traditionally only had one question type. A question, 4 answers, A, B, C, D. You have to select the best one. All right, but they've changed that. They now have matching questions, as you can see here. Multiple answers, that's where you have 5 or 6 answers, and then it's your choice to select 2, select 3 questions where you had to click on a chart. Okay, more in terms of the format, I got matching, multiple response, 20 questions were like that. For fill in the blank, you have to type the letters A, B, C, D. So as I said, there's a question and you have to select A, B, C, D, but there's also what PMI calls a limited fill in the blank. So instead of clicking A, B, C, D, you literally have to go to your keyboard and you have to type A, B, C, or D into this. I asked PMI, why do you do this? And they said, to give some variety. If you only have to click, 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 that gets boring. So if you suddenly have something where you have to type on your keyboard, then that changes the cadence and gives you a little bit of variety on your exam. And here also, there were several drag and drop questions. One, click on the diagram question. Oh, click on the diagram question. Those are the ones where maybe they show you a diagram of an S-curve of a budget. And then the question may be something like, where in this diagram is most of the money spent? And then you have to go to the diagram and you have to go click. This in the diagram is where I think most of the money was spent. So that's the click on the diagram kind of a situation. And then choose 3, choose 2. And the important thing here is if it says choose 2, you have to choose 2 before you can go to the next question. You cannot leave it incomplete. So if you're not sure, you want to flag them. And then later on, go back. All right. And now it is time for our guest, Dana Domnisor, PMP, who joins us today from Luxembourg. There she is. Hello, Dana. Welcome.
Hello, Cornelius. Thank you for inviting me. Hello,
Yeah,
everyone
so
from the reigning Luxembourg.
Yeah, thank you so much for offering. And I mentioned this to you before we started. This is actually the first time that any of my students has come to me and said, I would like to be here. I would like to talk about my lessons learned. You only took it a few days ago. Like, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last week on Friday, actually.
Yeah.
An exhausting Friday for me.
Yeah. So let's see. Friday, we are Monday. That's like 4 days. This is
4 days ago,
really brand new that you have been a PMP. So tell us about your experience, because I remember if I read your lessons learned, you said, I have taken it at home on my computer, and looking back, yeah, I would now probably go to the test center. Why did you say that?
It's true. It adds extra stress on you, and you don't really need the extra stress. You are under pressure enough because of the exam itself and the logistics and everything that you have to pay attention to because of the online tool. It puts extra pressure, and
Right.
that can be difficult to handle. And
Yeah, and by the online tool, you're referring to their online system, right? And
to
the
Pearson VUE,
system
yes.
check and all of that. You did the system check before the exam, right?
Exactly. I got an email with 2 links, one for the system check and one for logging in for the exam. And what they didn't tell me, or it wasn't there in the email, is that after you do the system check and you actually install something on your computer, on the day of your exam, you should launch this application and start from there the exam, not just click on the link, which will bring you back to checking the system. So on the day of the exam, I had to check again.
Oh, so you also mentioned you're in communication, and these kind of things drive you crazy if it's
Bothers
not
me a bit,
communicated
yes.
properly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was supposed to be there 30 minutes before the real exam started, so at 9 a.m. for me. And at 6 or 7 minutes past 9, still nothing happened. There was nothing happening. My button was not active. I could not click on start exam, and I started to panic a bit. I found a call center number which was not directly embedded in the email or on that page. I had to look on their website and find the number for me. I called London, and they guided me through the process. They asked me to restart my computer. And then my phone didn't quite work to take, you need to take photos of yourself, of your working space, so that they see you don't have anything under the table or around the corner. And I actually managed, I think 9:33, 9:34, I was starting my exam. Then another exam administrator, I guess, started to talk to me, and he asked me to throw
When you
away
say
everything.
he started to talk to you or she, is that live? So you hear him on your loudspeakers?
Yes, yes. I could
Oh,
not
okay.
write, but I could hear, and I could see him.
Okay.
And he told me that I'm not allowed to have even a white piece of paper or pens on the table, that I wasn't aware of. I thought I could have a scrap paper so that I mark something on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started the exam. I think the first part is divided in 3. So after the first 60 questions, and after you revise everything, all the questions marked up for review, you have the option to take a break.
Right.
And
So you take the
when
60 questions, and when you feel I'm done with those, take a break.
yes, after the question number 60, you are prompted to a screen asking you to review all the questions, and after you review them, they ask you if you want to go on a break or not. I chose to go on a break, and it was a note on the screen, something like the rules of the exam still apply during the break. And I was not sure, am I allowed to go to the toilet at least? Can I go for 2 minutes, because I really need to go and to grab a coffee or something. And I started, you have a chat window with the option to contact the exam administrator, and he wasn't very prompt. He kept on writing me, I'll be back with you in a minute. I don't know for sure. Something like that. He was not sure. But actually he allowed me to leave the room. But you have to be back until the break ends.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in 10
So
minutes.
to summarize, at the end of the 60, you push a button that says, I'm now taking a break. You're allowed to leave the room, but you have to
Yes,
be back before the 10 minutes are up. Now, before
exactly.
we move on to the second part here, there's a question from Kevin Riley. And Kevin asks, were you able to do a brain dump of some sort? Now, you already said they told you every paper has to be gone, so you couldn't write anything down. Did you use the whiteboard that they had to do a brain dump?
No.
No.
I was concerned about managing my time, and I had a small plan in my head that every 30, each set of 30 questions have to be within 35 minutes so that I can manage everything.
So you opted not to.
I opted not to, but I think I marked up for review many questions, much more than I usually did with your tool.
Okay. Why do you
because
think
indeed they are a bit vague.
Yeah. So they are vague, right? Like I said earlier. So do you think that the vagueness of the question made you mark for review more often?
Yes, that as well. But I also wanted to be more thorough, to take another look, even when I was inclined. I usually had two choices, and I was not sure it's A or C maybe, but I strongly inclined to one of the two, but I still marked the question for further review.
All right. We have a question here from Alex, because you had to take the paper away. Can you have water in the room? And I would assume in the room isn't good enough. You probably have to have it right there with you. Can you have water right there with you?
Yes, I think I had 1.5 liters of water during the exam and a coffee.
What I know is you have to have it in a transparent container. So it has to be a glass and a water bottle where you can see through. So my teacup here and my teapot, that wouldn't work because you cannot see into it. I know.
The coffee was in a mug, was in a normal mug.
Oh, you had a normal mug?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems to have changed.
No one told me anything about it.
Okay. So during the first set, what were the question types that you had? I talked about the multiple choice, multiple correct, drag and drop, point and click, fill in the blank where you had to type A, B,
I didn't have that. I didn't have
the
blank.
typing. Okay.
Not at all. But I had drag and drop and this pairing type of questions, which were easier than yours.
Oh, so pair one to the other.
Yes.
Okay. Of course, we're not allowed to say what exactly you had to pair. We're not going to go into the details.
I don't even remember from
as an example, you have an action and an action in a process, for example, quality, and then you have to drag this action to and say, this is an action for quality, this is an action for risk management, this is an action for budgeting.
And you have to drag them above the other. So from
so it's an overlay.
Left to the right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. How did it continue for you? Part 2.
Part 2, I think it was pretty smooth. Nothing spectacular happened. But in the third part, when I was at question number 175, my computer crashed.
So that's 5 questions before the end, right?
Yes. And I knew the answer to number 175. So actually there were 5 more. And I got the blue screen. I never got a blue screen on this computer I was using.
How much time did you have left at that point?
I think around 20 minutes. But I had a lot of questions marked for review because I think for me, the third part was a bit more difficult than the others. Also because I was tired at that point. That's normal. Yeah. And I had quite a few questions marked for review. And when I saw the blue screen, I didn't know what to do. I panicked. What is now? What is going to happen? Are they going to let me in again? Are they going to allow me to continue? With this 175, is it good enough to pass it or no? And I got back. I think it took me 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes to get back.
Okay, so you still had about 15 minutes or so, yeah?
Yes, but I couldn't revise all the questions I had marked. And actually the time...
There wasn't enough time.
No.
Okay.
I was almost there, but I couldn't go through everything. I just got the message on the screen. I was ready for any type of message. I was so scared.
So we make sure that once you started the computer back up again, you were able to log back in and you were able to continue. So you could answer 75, 76, 78, 90.
Yes. I was at 175.
Okay. So did you leave any question in the exam unanswered?
No.
No, every single one is answered. Yeah, and that is the way to go because there is no penalty for incorrect answers. But as soon as you do not answer a question, it is considered incorrect. So there is a penalty for not answering. Therefore, you always want to, every single one, check them out. All right.
One important point about this, because I realized when I restarted the computer, check if you have applications running in the background, because their program takes control of your computer and they can see what else is running. And I wasn't aware that Microsoft Teams and Skype were running in the background in my computer.
Ah. Okay.
And then it prompts you to close these applications I wasn't seeing on the screen. And in my desperation to be back again, to be back on in the exam, I uninstalled Skype because I couldn't close it.
Okay. So before you go to the exam, turn off all auto starts in case when the computer crashes and you're restarting, these background applications don't fire up. I mean, nowadays, yes, you have Skype, you have Microsoft Teams, maybe you have Slack, maybe you have another application, some messenger app that's running. Everything's running in the background these days. Let's see, what do I have running in the background right now? Yes, I have Teams. Microsoft Teams is running. I didn't even know it's running.
I also didn't know.
Drive. I have Google Drive running. I have Slack. So yeah, without me knowing, I'm like, why is Microsoft Teams running? I didn't even notice, right?
And when I was back online, the administrator asked me what happened. I don't know, my computer just crashed and now I'm back online. Sorry. And then he said it's okay.
Okay, allowed you to continue.
Yes.
The reason why PMI has this 60 break, 60 break, 60 is it is very hard to concentrate for 3 hours and 50 minutes straight. And if you drink water, it's very hard not to go to the bathroom during that time. So they have to give you time to leave. So this was like 5 minutes of 5 questions before the end, which he could probably see. I don't know what happens if you have a crash right at the beginning. What happens then? Will it allow you to continue, yes or no? I haven't heard any stories like that.
I'm not even sure that the crash was not their fault, something that they...
Oh, you think their application
yes.
or the server or... Okay.
Yes, because I never had this kind of blue screen with the message, computer unable to...
Now, when it comes to Pearson VUE, you get everything. So you get from left to right. You get the people who say, perfect. I had no problem. I tested my system. It worked, all the way over to, I tested my system. Everything was fine. Nothing worked. I couldn't log in. Nobody spoke to me. It was terrible. It crashed constantly. So you get all of it. The number one recommendation that I have definitely is use your personal laptop and not your business laptop, because business computers, they're always locked down. Firewalls, virtual private networks, intrusion alerts, background applications that must run. You're not administrated. You cannot turn anything off. So do use your personal computer. Now, let me test this theory. Dana, did you use your personal computer?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
And in the same room, I tested it with the same connection, nothing special.
Yeah. So you're done? You just finished? How long does it take until the message shows up on the screen?
Immediately, because my time was up. I actually didn't get to push the button end exam or something. Yeah, because I was going through the review questions, and at some point it said exam. You have 5 minutes left, I think. It was a message at some point.
Okay.
And maybe also you have 1 minute, but I'm not sure. But 5 minutes for sure.
There is a countdown clock, right?
Yeah.
Does the countdown
but it's big on your screen. There are 5 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah. Does the countdown clock change color? Like it's white normally and it goes red for the last 5 minutes?
No, I don't remember. No, I don't recall that.
But there is a message that says 5 minutes. Okay. So you did, and do you have, does it just stop? You're done?
Screen appears with a short message, 2 lines. Congratulations, you passed the PMP exam, and I screamed. I didn't jump from the chair because I saw on your forum that
Yeah.
someone
This is
of her
very
husband was
important. This is very important.
I
Once you
was
are
on the chair,
done,
but I jumped and screamed.
yeah. Celebration is fine. Once you're done, don't do this. Wait, I go the other way. There. Don't go out of the camera. Because now if you're out of the camera, they may cancel your exam, right? So stay put. Yeah, I passed. And did you get an email? Was there anything else?
You have a questionnaire from Pearson VUE and a short one from PMI. I'm not sure about the order, but some
You're
feedback questions.
exhausted. You're tired.
It's
Please
a very
fill in
bad
this
time to ask
survey.
for feedback. I wouldn't do that if I were
Yeah.
Pearson VUE. Or I would repeat the survey later on when people are not that exhausted and drained
Yeah.
and maybe disappointed.
Okay. Since we're at the very end, let me take you back to the very beginning. Is there a tutorial?
No.
No? Okay.
I think it's not. No.
Yeah.
I was very stressed at the beginning because I couldn't start the exam. And you have 3 bullet points. If you don't start it, maybe it's not the time yet. It's longer than 30 minutes. Or maybe you already failed to log into your appointment. You are too late. And they're starting to check if this is the CETs and what time is my exam.
All right.
I don't remember having a tutorial.
Yeah. Now let's go back to the end. No, wait. Let's bring up this question here from Nivedita. Who says, while reading vague question, my mind starts panicking more, putting me even further away from understanding it. Did you ever have a situation where you read a question and the question made you panic? You go, I don't understand what's going on.
When I don't understand what's going on, I usually get angry and I click something and I mark it for review. And at some point later, I come back to it
You come back to check it.
Yeah, with a clear mind.
Okay. So best choice in this situation, Iverita, is make your choice, mark it, come back, right? Don't let it get to you. That's the important thing, right? The questions are vague. The questions are confusing. If you let it get to you, it will affect your exam. So at that point, you have to realize what's going on in your own head. Breathe in, breathe out. D, mark next.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So at the end, you get the message, congratulations. When you are at the testing center, you can now get up, you can go out, they give you a printed piece of paper with your result. What did you get? Did you get anything from Pearson VUE? Did they send you an email or?
They sent me an email 1 hour after the exam finished with congratulations, you passed, and that I was above target in all 3 areas.
Right. So was that above target from Pearson VUE or was that from PMI or was that sort of a combined?
It was from Pearson VUE and from PMI it came Saturday afternoon, so one day.
So it took
24
hours.
to 48 hours, yeah.
Okay. And how many have you already checked online if your name is in the online registry and on PMI's website?
I didn't check today. I think I checked yesterday and it wasn't. But I can download my certificate.
Yeah.
And I also have I saw today the exam score in more detail.
Mm-hmm. All right. According to PMI's exam content outline, 50% of the exam is agile and hybrid, and the other 50% is plan-driven waterfall. And this is the question that we have here from Miguel Escribano Nuno. He asks, in your perception, what was the percent of agile, hybrid, waterfall questions on the exam? Or did you not pay attention to that at all?
I think at some point I told to myself that it's a bit more agile than expected. So I think it was more than half.
Okay. Yeah, to me, this is something that many of my students tell me that they feel there is more agile in the exam than waterfall. I don't know how to explain it because the exam content outline says 50-50. So 51, 52%, I would be okay, right? That's just a small variation, whatever. But some people say it's 75% agile, right?
I don't think so. No, around 60 maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And this could, of course, also be if you have a hybrid question, and PMI says, yes, this is a hybrid question, but it's primarily waterfall, primarily plan driven. So they count that as a plan driven, but in our heads, oh, this is hybrid, right? So how do you assign them versus how does PMI assign it? Question from Andre. Is it possible to go back to Mark's question from the beginning when you are in your loss? So you did 60 break, 60 break. Can you go back to the previous ones?
No, no. The first 60 are gone. You can't go back.
Yeah. So if you're in the second,
you are only
go back
in the third part or in the second part, and you don't have access to the others. And I think that's the point, because you can't go to the toilet and check a formula.
Right.
Because you marked a question.
Kevin asks, what materials did you use to study?
I use Rita's 10th edition, your exam simulator, and I discovered some YouTube videos from David McClellan in my last week of preparation. Actually, it's a 7 hours video on YouTube, and this is it. I never read the PMBOK, actually.
You never read the PMBOK? Okay, well, congratulations. All right. What would be your number one recommendation here for everybody, sort of in closing, as a takeaway? If you had to do this again, what would you do differently? What would you tell our audience? Here's what to focus on.
I think you should the stress that the administrative part of the exam puts on you is out of the question. It's there, and you have to deal with it. And don't let the stress get you.
Don't worry about it. This is live, so I'm surprised that my cat hasn't joined me yet today.
Yeah, my cat also wanted to join the PMP exam.
All right. Don't let the stress get to you. I think this is
the administrative part, that you are too late, or that you don't have a pen, or that the connection. So it belongs to it. So focus on your exam. This is part of life. It's not always, you cannot have control over it. It's a separate thing, but yes, it adds to your stress.
All right.
And practice, I think the fact that I did 3 mock-up exams from your simulator helped me a lot. It helps you learn how to be concentrated, how to be focused for 4 hours on an exam.
And this actually answers this question here from David. How many simulation exams did you write? Did I hear you correctly? You said you took 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I had an attempt to take the ITTO. Yeah. And I got bored. And I abandoned.
Understandable. Yes, ITTOs are no longer on the exam. This is really strange. If we take the ITTO exam out of our simulator, people complain. Why don't you have any questions about ITTOs? When we put it into the simulator, people complain. Why do you have questions about ITTOs? So you can't. There is no way we can do it right. Okay, so you took 3 exams.
So I took 2 weeks before the real exam. So the first one was 2 weeks before the real exam, and I had scores between 72 and 76%.
Yeah, that's about the recommended target that we give to people. All right, Dana, thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and for giving us
everyone.
Yeah. And giving us your thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
All right, everybody. That was our guest, Dana Domnisor, PMP, who just passed her exam A few days ago, 4 days ago. All right. What we want to do is we want to continue a little bit here, and we want to take a look at a few more lessons learned, and this one here in particular. Because people say formulas are no longer on the exam, and I can tell you within the last 5 days, I've seen a number of lessons learned that talk about formulas on the exam. So formulas are still on the exam, but they have changed, okay? And they have changed because we as project managers, we no longer use calculators and have to do things on our own. We don't really have to calculate all these in-depth formulas, but we have to know how to interpret these, right? So you have to know how to interpret charts. You have to know how to interpret results. And you can maybe expect one easy calculation. So within the last 5 days, this is what I pulled off the internet. I had one calculation and 3 to 4 questions on the SPI, the CVs, no calculations, the one there, one EVM with calculation, the third one, and 3 EVM without calculation. So this is all interpretational. So if, in other words, if I give you a number and tell you CPI on your project is X, what do you do now? That is the type of question to expect. Or you see a burn down chart or a burn up chart or a budget or some sort of a graph that says, this is what's going on in your project, you know, from a cost perspective, for example. What do you tell your sponsor? What actions do you take to correct this? Do you take any corrective actions? Those are the type of questions about formulas that you need to know. And this is the point where our new PrepCast formula guide comes in. It is now brand new, available on Amazon. It has 160 questions in it. It is updated. It includes the new interpretational formula questions. I have 2 sections. The first section is about interpretational questions. The second section is about the calculation questions. This is totally updated for the current exam. So if you want to know about all the formulas, please go to pmformulas.com/Amazon, where you can get it printed or in Kindle version. Now, Dana earlier said, I knew exactly that I passed because I had this message on the screen there that said, congratulations, you passed. However, interestingly enough, many people say, I'm not sure if I passed. Here you go. There's one. I just finished my exam 10 minutes ago. Heard about other people being unsure if they passed, not in the end. So I took it slow. Read everything once finalized. I read a page that says, congratulations and celebrate, or something similar. But it was confusing if it said congrats to finishing the exam or congrats to passing the exam. Okay. Same thing with this person here. You will receive, this is exactly what Dana had. You will first receive a person view email 1 hour or 2 after doing the exam. You will see a provisional score. Then 1 to 5 days later, email from PMI. Do not worry. You can also search Pearson VUE and PMI to see your scores. There are a ton of people out there who have explained, step by step, if you're not sure, where is your actual score, both in Pearson VUE and on the PMI website. So you can take you can search for those as well. There you go. The third one. Blank blue screen at the center for 2 minutes after I had finished. And then congratulations. So I got so nervous, right? This person did it in the testing center. And when they got to the front desk, they got a printed result. And this is, by the way, a tip for everybody. If you are at the testing center, do not leave the testing center without the printed copy of your test result. Very important. About 4 years ago, I think, A student of mine got their printed result and never heard back from anybody, not from Pearson VUE. Actually, back then it was still Prometric and PMI. So he called them up and they're like, we have no record of you ever taking this exam. The reason was he was one of the last people at that testing center, and then they moved the testing center and somehow the data got lost. But he had the printed version of this exam. He could prove that he had passed the exam, and therefore he is now still a PMP. So make sure you get that printed version there. Next, I want to talk a little bit here about the question length, because this is also one complaint that we often get on exam simulators. Your questions are too long. PMI's questions are much shorter. Well, good news, bad news. The questions are getting longer. Okay. The length of the question, this person says, caught me off guard. I spent almost more than 2 minutes staring at some of the fluffy questions and began to panic when I spent 80 minutes for the first 60 questions. So be potentially prepared that the questions are a bit longer, that they're more like what you can find in our exam simulator. I also have this one here, but I want you to take this with a ton of salt. Okay, so this is completely rumor. I cannot guarantee that this is in fact true. They say that this person said, I had very wordy questions in the first 60. Then it was easier, shorter in the middle, and then once again, wordy in the last, which is especially great when you are exhausted by that point. So take this one with a grain of salt. There is no guarantee that this is in fact the case. I would be very surprised if PMI did this, but I wanted to share this particular lessons learned with you anyway. But what I think we can get from this particular lessons learned is when your brain is mushy by that point, be prepared for the whole duration. Okay, and that it just drags on and on and on and tires you. So using an exam simulator, being able to sit for 3 hours and 50 minutes in front of a computer and having done 3 or 4 tests, sample exams like Dana did, that is the way to go. Which takes me to this here, self-doubt. Okay, you're in the 30 last question, and self-doubt begins to creep in. Can creep in even earlier, right? Do not think about pass or fail when you're in the exam. Focus on the question in front of you. If you start to worry about, oh my God, I do not know this question, and how am I going to tell my friends about this? This is distracting you. This is not the way to take this exam. Breathe in, breathe out, count to 10, move on, right? You also want to take each question one at a time. Answer the question, go to the next one. Answer the question, go to the next one. Don't go, oh, I'm not sure about the previous question. Oh, I'm not sure about this one. I'm not sure about this one. I'm not sure about this one either. If you do that, you are just going to drive yourself crazy, okay? So don't do that. And this is, I think, a good summary. You will feel like you failed on almost every question. But at 180, when you thought your pockets were about to be a couple of $100s later because you have to pay the retake fee again, and you're embarrassed to tell your family after all the hard work you put in, and you feel alone and you're cold, and then congratulations shows up on the exam. So as I have said a couple of times already today here, expect to reach a point at which self-doubt starts to creep in. Everybody has that. I had that back when I took my exam. So I knew for sure I had failed my exam. I was actually surprised that I passed, right? And everybody has that. Everybody goes through that. You have ups, you have downs, you have lows, you have valleys, you have peaks. That just happens. If you are in a low, breathe in, breathe out, continue. That's the only thing you can do. Focus on the here and the now, not the past, not the future. read the question, read the full question, read the full answer, and move on. Make your selection and go to the next one. Yeah, and with that, we have come to the end of our lessons learned. There are more lessons learned coming up. Just a second here. I'm going to talk to you about that. But before we do that, I want you to take action. More lessons learned are available at pmprepcast.com, LL, as in lessons learned. Okay, that's where you want to go if you're interested in reading more and current lessons learned. Have a few new ones there. There's the one from Dana as well. And you can put your own lessons learned there if you have passed. Okay. And I mentioned there are more lessons learned coming up. Yes, we are going to do about 2 more of these lessons learned live streams. As you can see here, there's a lot that I haven't talked to you about today. I want to talk about the exam content outline, agile and hybrid definitions, ITTOs, question content, question difficulty, exam technology, the whiteboard, taking the exam duration, time management, taking breaks and ending the exam. All of that is coming up in upcoming. It's coming up in upcoming live streams where we talk about lessons learned together. And with that, it's time for us to part ways today. So thank you so much for joining me. And of course, until next time. But before you go, please don't forget, this lesson is part of a series in which I help you to be better prepared for your PMP exam. Please visit pmprepcast.com/more to watch all of them.